Okay, this is the first PowerPoint lecture for Introduction to Sociology. You'll want to have some paper in front of you, or your laptops or your phones, however you want to take notes. You need to treat these video lectures just as you would an in-class lecture, except you get to do it kind of at your convenience. So here we go. I'm going to introduce the idea of sociology to you. Some of these ideas and concepts I'm bringing to you in this first video may not be located in your book, so some of it will, but some of it won't. So you'll definitely want to take some good notes. The first question that I always ask, and I'll ask you to kind of think to yourself, or if you're watching these with classmates, to kind of think to yourselves a little bit, or discuss even, what does sociology mean to you? When you hear the word sociology, what do you think of? Some people will say that they think of groups of people, or they think of culture, and those are both correct answers. Sociology, as you're going to find, encompasses a lot of different things. One of the nice things about sociology is that it really touches a lot of different areas of life. It borrows a lot from the other social sciences like psychology, history, political science. If you want a nice tidy definition for your notes, and that's one that you'll want to get down, it's the scientific study of human society and social behavior. And we'll talk about what this definition really means. So we'll let you get that in your notes. Obviously you can stop and pause this video as you need to take notes. Another way to define sociology is to say it is the scientific study of groups of people. And the scientific part of the definition is important because there is a standardized and systematic process by which we try to acquire information and then disseminate information in sociology. So we'll talk about that too. Now, the next question, and I'm again ask you to think about this. Why do you think it's important to study sociology? Now that you know what it means, you understand that it's the scientific study of groups of people. Why the heck is it important to study it? Well, I can give you some ideas. Issues related to sociology that we're going to study in this class include the idea of culture. There's not just one culture at your high school. There's not just one culture in this county in West Virginia. We are a county, a state, a nation, a world of many different cultures. You don't have to look too far to find cultural influence just in your town, whether it's a Mexican restaurant or an Italian restaurant or a specific type of music that you listen to that might come from a different part of the country or a different part of the world. So we're going to talk about the idea of culture. Also, related to sociology, we're going to talk about popular culture, music, food, clothing, entertainment. Advertisers have their fingers on the pulse of young America, of people within your age group, because you guys consume. In other words, you buy a lot of the clothes, a lot of the music, you watch movies, you download stuff, and what's popular in terms of music, groups, food, etc. And sociology tries to understand this phenomenon as well. Also, religion. We get into some more controversial areas with religion. There's not just one religion or one religious faith in this town, in this, in this county, in this state, obviously. So sociology is interested in religion and some of the misinformation as well, and some of the misapplications of religion. We'll talk about some of the stereotypes that are associated with religion as well. We're going to talk about gender. I'm not talking about being male or female biologically. With gender, we're going to talk about the roles that we are expected to play as men and women, and what the consequences might be if we don't follow that perfect little blueprint for what it means to be a guy, if you are a guy, or what it means to be a girl, if you are a girl. So we'll talk about how gender is socially constructed. We also will talk about politics, in terms of how it relates to society, how politics impacts how groups are formed, the way that we believe, how we believe, And all this stuff is going to tie together. We'll also talk about race and ethnicity in this course and how they intersect. So, we've got a lot already to kind of think about. Sociology will also help us, hopefully, to better understand a lot of the social problems that we encounter in society, including racism. I think it's fair to say that we still have racial problems and racial tensions in this country. It seems like every other month or so there's a police shooting involving a minority, or there are other racial issues that capture the attention of the national media. Also, to understand why some people are rich. Why is it that some people seem to have everything? Is it because they're good looking? Is it because they're just super talented? Or is it that they are in the right place at the right time? I would argue that some of you sitting in this class are probably just as attractive or just as intelligent or just as talented as some of these people. But maybe you just aren't in the right place at the right time. Or maybe you will be someday. Maybe you'll get that right place at the right time moment and you'll be worth $60 million like Jennifer Lawrence. So are these people just super talented? Are they better than the rest of us? Is that why they're worth so much? Well, sociology attempts to understand and explain this as well. What about Oprah Winfrey? She's worth $3 billion. Is she just that much more intelligent than the rest of us? Or was she just kind of in the right place at the right time in history? We can debate that. We could talk about that if we were in a classroom. You can think about that. About LeBron James. His net worth is $300 million. It's estimated that by the time he retires, that he will be worth well over $1 billion. So are they just that much better than the rest of us? Why are some of us poor? I know a lot of people who work really hard, they're very intelligent, they're good-looking people, but they're poor, they're struggling. A lot of it has to do with where you're born. If you happen to be born in an underdeveloped part of the world, then even if you're super talented, you're probably not going to be rich like the people we saw in the previous slides. Being born in a wealthy nation like the United States certainly helps. So again, sociology tries to help us understand. Certainly I've been poor at times. This is an older picture of myself and my daughter. So just kind of a funny little slide there. And it just depends on where you are at in your life too. Sometimes one person may have a lot of money at one time and not much 10 years from now. And then maybe they get more down the road when their kids are off to college and they're on their own. So why do we go to war? Sociology helps us to try to understand why we go to war. Helps us understand why we fall in love and who we fall in love with. Do you think it's fair to say that you have freedom of choice in terms of who you date, who you eventually fall in love with and marry? The answer in this country and in this culture is overwhelmingly why yes, you certainly do get to choose who you date, who you fall in love with, who you marry. This isn't always the case. In other countries, sometimes relationships and marriages are arranged by parents. So we'd like to say we have freedom of choice. But here's what we find when you look at the research and you look at relationships. Typically, what you find in this freedom of choice country is that rich people tend to date and marry rich people. Middle-class people tend to marry, date middle-class people. Poor people tend to date and marry poor people. So why is that? Certainly there are some exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, people of similar backgrounds in terms of socioeconomic status, income, religious beliefs, tend to sort of flock together. They tend to stay together, hang out with each other. Our friendships, and if you think about your friendships and the people that you date, I'm going to guess that probably you have dated and that you are friends with people who are similar to you in terms of your age, your income levels, your parents' income levels, your beliefs. It just tends to be the way. And we'll discuss why this is. And I think Will and Jada actually just split up, so I need to update that slide now, don't I? Actually, I think they've kind of split up too, perhaps. But at any rate, you get the idea. Now, I'm going to go ahead and stop here. We're going to call that the end of the first installment for video lecture part A. Thank you.